Pages with Mel. You're an author of many books and also a creative. So I'm just going to hand over the spotlight to you to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It's an honor being on here and much success in everything that you're doing. So, my name is Elijah Ivory. I am from Warner Robins, Georgia. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm also an author. I create music, and I enjoy seeing people of all different aspects living their life through their dreams and not letting anything hold them back. So that's what I feel like my journey has been, just to amplify my voice to see others amplified as well.
Okay, nice. So what got you? So I know we spoke a little briefly prior to coming on here. And you were in the Navy. What inspired you to start writing?
So writing has always been something I've done since I was a child. It was my way of, I felt like connecting with the world. I kind of always felt like I was a person that didn't always go with the flow of what everybody else was doing. I kind of just was comfortable being myself. And as I got older, I became even more comfortable. But writing was always something that was personal to me. I always felt more alive when I would write and come up with ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. So it was just something from a young age that I utilized and I just kept close to me, and it's helped me throughout my life so far.
And your books are mostly motivational, correct?
Yeah. So currently at this time, I do have four books there, like self-help motivational. So that's correct.
Why do the motivation?
So motivation, because I feel like there's so much darkness in the world, and people
Mm.
that there is light beyond just the darkness that we see. Sometimes the light is just pushed to the side because darkness, and depending on the situation, it brings in a certain amount of revenue and things of that nature, depending on how it's used and you manufacture politically or whatever the case may be. So for me, I just want to show people there's another way. You don't always have to go the way that's going to lead you into a place that you may not be able to come back from.
Was there any pain that birthed the motivational part out of you? Did you go through a process of like something hard in life, a battle with, either mental illness or did something happen for you to get into this motivational thing, or are you just, they naturally have people who are just wanting to bring light, not
Okay.
necessarily they went through something bad. Which one were you?
So for me, I was the type of person that I used to see things coming up as I was a young child, see things people go through, whether family and friends or just people in the community. And my thing is, I feel like if I had a voice or opportunity, I always wanted to help out or make a difference. Well, but once I got in the military, I had a point in my life I was at a crossroads. I didn't really set myself up for success once I got out, and there was a lot of things, situations that I just really wasn't comfortable in. And at that moment in time, asked myself, what am I going to do moving forward? Am I going to just be okay with a mediocre lifestyle or just living the bare minimum? Or I'm going to continue to push myself. And I had, the right people in my life that motivated me and pushed me. So I just wanted to get that energy back out to everybody else.
Okay, nice. Do you have like a creative process? Anything that you go through, sort of like a practice or a ritual that you go through to be creative? Because I went on your Instagram page and you're like kind of multifaceted, like with the creative, you've got many talents and you're not shying away from them either. You're not putting yourself in a box.
Yeah. So I would say for me, of the last few years, going outside has helped with my creativity. And I feel like it's just more so the fresh air, God's creation. We're part of God's creation. So when you're in your element or you're around nature, you're around something that makes you comfortable, your creativity is going to come out more. And for me, everything that I do is from God. He downloads and stuff like that. Now, the way I utilize it, I can utilize it for, His honor, or I can utilize it for my own self validation or
Mm.
gratification. So for me, it's been, going outside. That has helped a lot. But also, I just think about what's going on in the times. And for me, I can do things that's, fun and entertainment value wise, but I'm always thinking about, hey, you know, I wonder what's going on with the kids. I wonder what they're thinking about, or how do the older generation feel about the younger generation. So I try to be able to be like a bridge, and then that's kind of how my creative process comes together.
Oh, I think some of the older generation are probably holding their heads and like, what the hell? Right? Um, what else can you tell us about your creative, your work, and what you obviously come across people that what can you tell us about your creative work that inspires you the most to be
I feel
creative?
for me, when when I present it to others and the way they receive it, when people tell me, hey, I really needed that, or a moment in time in my life when I heard something you said, it resonated with me. Because sometimes we, as creators, we're looking for, that one, whatever it is, skit or whatever it is you're doing to just take you to over the top. And for me, I realized if I'm able to help people out, just mentally, maybe it's something I said that spiritually they felt like, hey, I kind of want to go into this more, or do my own research on things and stuff like that. So for me, it's more so about making a difference for a person on the inside, because the surface level or the mask we sometimes wear to make other people feel comfortable, or to kind of, I guess, be around other people to fit in. And then when you come home, it's like, man, you feel it's so much weight and pressure on you because you're not able to be yourself. And me being myself and seeing how people gravitate to me being myself, that really has showed me like I want to keep going and keep on the trajectory I am, and just become even better.
So you definitely advocate for authenticity.
Yeah, correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Um, what do you find that like in today's world, like what do you think like are some of the issues that we're having collectively?
Oh yeah, okay. We have an identity crisis. That's one. We're having, I feel like, a humanity crisis, as far as people are willing to do anything, say anything, because they feel like there's no limits. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah, if anybody knows that from the Bible, where it's like everything goes, nothing is off limits. And when that happens, it takes away the balance of the world. And I feel like that's the number one thing. There's not enough balance in the world. It's more so about be who you want to be. It's a free for all. Nobody should tell you what to do, but I think about it is we have rules and things put into place. There are certain things to where it's like, hey, maybe we can revise that, or maybe we can find a way to make it more applicable for certain people. I understand that, but at the same time, when you don't have any kind of balance or any kind of structure, that creates even more division, but also creates people who feel like they can go above the law, just due to because how they feel. Hey, well, this I'm allowed to say and do whatever I want to do. So I feel like balance is the number one issue, or lack of, we're having in the world.
And can you give me an example of that?
Well,
Of
yes, yeah. So
Go
I
ahead.
feel like with the election, we're currently in this election season and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And I feel like people, because they feel one way or the other, they may have one candidate saying, hey, look at what they're telling you you can't do or you can't say, or whatever you believe in is wrong. Hey, handle that. Hey, show them that they're not right. And I feel like people are kind of giving like certain blanket statements, or they're causing people's energy to go into a different direction where it's becoming destructive. And now you have people that was rushing the Capitol, or you have people who feel like, hey, well, I'm going to try to assassinate somebody that could be the president because I
Hmm.
don't like their ideologies when it comes to maybe women's rights and certain things like that. So I feel like because of there is imbalance to say, hey, look, let's understand that we need to keep our emotions and certain things intact. You just can't go out and say out and do anything. So that's more so what I think of the lack of balance is, where people are not taking logic and emotion and making sure it's not, what I'm saying? The emotion is not all here, and then the logic takes you away from kind of reality where it's like, okay, can you hear a person out? Like you may not, all the way respect it, but at least hear them out. So you know what? I can have a conversation with somebody else with a similar, mindset. So that way I don't come off like I'm just brash. So things like that when I mean about
Yeah,
kind
so
of
kind of like having a third perspective and understanding like, okay, we're disagreeing on this, but I could
balance.
kind of understand where you're coming from. However, it doesn't resonate with me and respectfully,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, just so real quick, say if somebody says, hey, you're voting for this particular person, and then all of a sudden they get mad, or you're shopping at a store, and then they're supposed to be, checking you out and everything like that, and they stop and say, well, you need to vote for this person. And it's like, ma'am or sir, thank you, for giving me this, information, but I currently don't want to talk about that. And they get aggressive. And that's what I've seen that personally, where because I didn't, associate myself with a certain, side, then it's like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm the problem, I'm wrong. And then there's vitriol that comes with it. So I just think that people need to understand not everybody's going to think the same, and we have to respect that.
Actually, you're quite right with that too, because even I see it within like like the relationship community, you have the the red pill community, and you have this, and it's almost as if like you're if you don't fit into this ideology, they want to put you in a box and a label and then label you. So you you have to think the way they think and act the way they act. So it's almost as if you're not even using your critical thinking skills anymore, which I have noticed the younger generation does not have, right? So I could see that. And I don't understand. I find people are just really over emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you,
If-
especially when I was scrolling through, like TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and you're seeing someone having a hysterical breakdown at the cash register, I'm kind of like wondering what on earth is going on.
yeah.
There's no reason to have a breakdown because somebody accidentally, cut you off in line.
Yeah.
We're so, not emotionally equipped anymore. And it's like a self me.
Yeah.
It's like we're breeding a bunch of narcissistic people.
I can agree with that. I see that a lot. And I've even, personally have dealt with things myself where I just make it about me. And when you make everything about yourself, anything somebody else does or any way you could possibly help somebody, it's just like, where am I going to benefit it from? You know what I'm saying? Whether it's in business, with family, friends, whatever, you kind of get to where it's like, how am I going to benefit? And a benefit might not always be monetary, or might not always be something to where it's just going to put you in this certain limelight. Sometimes being behind the scenes or helping somebody when nobody else knows, but they know, that goes a long way too. That's like, wow, this person helped me out. They didn't try to put me on camera. They didn't try to post about it. Because that's another thing too. A lot of people want to post their problems instead of talking to the person they're having the issues with, and then thinking that social media is going to help them. Social media, it's a land of misinformation. It's a land of people who let pride and ego get in the way. So if they're not feeling love, and you're talking about, hey, this person that I love or care about is bringing me through this, drop them, leave them. You don't need them. There's so many other people out here. And when you have options to do whatever you want to do, I think a lot of times people just stray away from trying to continue pushing certain narratives that's going to help people out. It's not a lot of love in the world. There's a lot of
Yeah,
hate in the street. Like
I agree.
yeah, for sure. So, and I just think that we just have to change that, create a different headline, create a different narrative. And it takes people, like yourself who are willing to, come out of their shell and create platforms where people can come on here and give their different points of view, and that helps people out. So, and again, I thank you for having me on here.
Oh, you're very welcome. No, I absolutely understand the third perspective thing and the oversharing. Oh, the oversharing on social media needs to stop. And I feel like we need to bring back shame. Like we, it's just too much. It's too much. And like you said as well, like people are now have become disposable, you know, and it's like we're superficial and we can get caught up in it too, especially if you're in the online world. We can get caught up with it being vain and prideful and wanting to show everything on camera. But for me, the biggest thing is why are we treating human beings so harshly? Especially when we have an epidemic of loneliness. I've been talking about that for, I guess, on my last three episodes where people are so disconnected now and we're so high strung. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I definitely agree with that. I feel it's that domino effect where it could be relationships. It could sometimes things stem from childhood trauma, whether
Hmm.
it's those family secrets that they say, hey, we can't mess up the family name, whether it's things from feeling like, your parent might have remarried and their love's changed for you. And so now, every relationship you get in, now you want to kind of combat that to make sure, hey, you're not gonna leave me or you're not gonna change or, wherever the case may be. And just so many different avenues I feel like that people have been through where they just didn't feel wanted. They feel like, oh, maybe I don't look like somebody in the family, or maybe I think differently from the rest of the family. So now I'm getting banished. You know what I mean? Now I'm the problem. I'm the issue. But then later down on in life, now some of those same family members or friends are saying, like, so a lot of things you were right, I just can accept it. Maybe because this ego thing where you were a youth, so I can accept that coming from you. But now that you're older, I can accept it now. And I think that plays a part too. People's ego, they have a hard issue being wrong. If they're wrong, it's like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
wrong, but you were wrong with me. It's like, okay, that could be true, but it doesn't always have to be where you will accept fault or blame as long as somebody else is attached to it. And like I said, that's something I had to learn myself. And that's why I try to put those things in my books to show, hey, I'm not just talking down to people or whatever the case may be. I'm coming from, my perspective and things that I've seen other people go through and how they manage that. And then having solutions. Because a lot of people want to come with problems. They always want to, post or regurgitate certain talking points. But what are the solutions? And then if you're
Mm.
not really trying to make a change for yourself first, then you're still going to be the problem for your own self. So you got to get out your own way first before you try to make way for somebody else, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. The Was there any obstacle that you faced that you felt like you had to get out of your own way?
Yes, I feel like when it even comes to relationships, I feel
Mm.
for me, there were certain relationships that I've been through or trying to get to know somebody where I felt where I was at in my life there were certain things that really weren't valued the way I thought they should be, whether it's my intentions or my heart or my care. I felt like that was taking a back seat to, okay, well, how much money you bringing in or what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Or certain things at surface level, like you mentioned about superficial. So I just felt like for me, well, maybe I have to conform to being a certain way or presenting myself a certain way to where I can have those certain type of people that I feel like are best for me in my life. So that was something that kind of changed my mindset to why, you know what? If I love myself and appreciate who I am, the person that I'm with, I feel like will do the same, but it also be able to bring out a better side of me. So whether that's constructive criticism, but it has to be done with respect. A lot of people want to say or tell you whatever their opinion is, and they have a no, level of respect. It's like, hey, you got to accept me the way I am. That's what it is. Get with it or get lost. And they're always by themselves. Even when they around a whole bunch of people, when they're posting certain things, like, man, that's coming from a vantage point of somebody who is saying they got so much love around them, but they may not truly love themselves, and that makes the difference. So, and that's something that I've dealt with, and tried to just change that so that way I can have a better life when it comes to that avenue.
You mentioned relationships, right? And maybe you would have been I'm just assuming here you would have been vulnerable. You're a young man in his 30s, right?
Yeah,
And
32.
yeah, how much?
I said 32.
Right. So
Yeah.
32.
Mhm.
How now I'm 41, so the dating game is definitely different, right? Out here. For a young man who is 32, what kind of pressure do you face actually from women? Because you mentioned like you probably don't have enough money, or they're looking for superficial things.
Yeah.
So, what kind of problems do you encounter, like being a young man?
Well, I will say this, right? So even financially, you should be financially stable, and that's on both ends, But as a man, there are certain things that the right type of woman is going to look for. She's going to want you to be financially stable. She's going to want you to be health conscious. Are you getting your visits and stuff like that? Not because she's trying to be your mother, but she wants to make sure if we're going to have a long lasting relationship, it's because you're putting everything you have to for yourself. And then
Mhm.
together, trying to, make sure we're good as a collective. But I would say for me, some of the difficult parts is I feel like social media and just entertainment in general, because you have, women nowadays who feel like a man has to be a certain type of way or he has to almost pander to her for her to like respect him. I see a lot of panels where it's like some of the men are pandering to the women, and they're like, see, y'all men need to be like this, y'all need to be like this. But one thing about it is, when you're saying you're looking for something, and then that man shows you that, and then I was saying your mindset changes something else. Now everything he's done really doesn't matter because now your mindset has changed. That's why I like a stable minded woman where it's like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want. And I like a person that's able to lead, but at the same time doesn't have dominion over me to where I can't interject or I can't be able to give my point of view because it takes both of us. You know what I mean? Because a woman can be a leader as well. But at the same time, if we're going by what the Bible is saying and things of that nature is like that, the man is to lead, but the woman is his better half. The woman is his peace of mind. And with her, they can become even greater together. Individually, yeah, they can be great. And that's another thing too. Some people feel like, well, I don't need a woman, I don't need a man. That's cool. But as human beings, we're not meant to just be alone. And that's why when sometimes people are alone for so long or feel like, hey, I don't want to be around nobody, it changes you. You
It
know what I mean?
does.
It definitely changes you. So I just feel like having your own point of view, like if you're giving me your opinion on something, it could maybe come from somebody else, but whatever decision you make, that need to be your decision, not your sister decision, not your mother decision, your father decision. If it's an influence of some of that, but you ultimately came up with that decision, like, hey, well, I want to be with you, or I don't want to be with you, or somebody told me this, somebody told me that. Depending how you deliver that message, that makes a whole difference. And I feel like people are not like I see a lot of women nowadays influenced by other women who sometimes can't even maintain a relationship. So you're already going into something.
That's a good point.
You're going into something where you're going to fail. You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point because I don't believe in like taking on a mentor that's going to teach me about relationships and or marriage and they're not married.
Yeah. And I just want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
Um, there's nothing wrong with listening to advice, but also like you alluded to, pay attention to where you're getting advice from. Because there are some women giving advice or relationship advice about men who really don't like men.
Uh, okay. Because it you freeze.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. You were saying we got caught off there for a minute there, but you were saying that some women are taking advice from other women who actually don't like men.
That is correct. There are some because this is the thing about it. There's people who they can talk about different things across the landscape
Mm,
within the context of like social media and give their point of view. But at the same time, sometimes the energy they're giving into certain discussions, it comes off like they really don't particularly like men or they have an issue with men in general, or a man has hurt them, which I can understand and respect that. But at the same time, there are women who are healed and they're looking to get advice for somebody that, hey, how can I help mend the relationship I have, or how can I find the right man? But if you're only telling them find a man with money and find a man a certain stature or boss type man or something like that, which is cool, but there's bosses that work 9 to 5. There's bosses that
yeah.
they their money. So that man with the flash and all that stuff like that, on the surface it could be great, but then when you're struggling every first of the month, then it's like, wow, well, we look good together on camera, but behind the scenes there's an issue. So I just feel like you should go off, you should have your own discernment. That's a big thing, just in general, on all sides, male and female. Have your own this level of discernment where it's like, I'm willing to get to know this person, I'm hearing them out, I don't want to compare them to my past, which that's things that I've done, and you give them a clean slate. You let them prove themselves, or you let them show you how far they are away from who they perceive to be.
Yeah, and I also I have been attending praise and worship recently and I heard about like discernment is usually it's something you do need to pray for, right? You do need to pray for to have discernment. And I do think there's a competition that we have going on online. And I understand what you say that we have this thing where women are actually hating men, which is now leaving us more in a division and a separation.
Mhm.
And my belief is for a woman to flourish and for a man to flourish, we need each other,
Mhm.
right? And even if you had to go into the energy aspect of it for the divine feminine or the divine masculine to really be in its truest form, you do need the other part. I mean, we all have both in us, but in order for me to be at the highest thing, I need a partner. Like a partner will elevate me, right?
Mhm.
Um, to that, so I understand with the social media thing because I read a book recently. It was an extremely feminist book, but she basically she had a good few points, right? But she was just really coming down, and they like to use misogynistic men, right? Um, but I get it because we do have those men out there that are really coming down on women, and we're now more in a single society as women. So I can see how it's so easy to be adaptable, to just adapt to these things on social media, you know? Because we're also trying to find a place to belong. And then if we're like, there's this woman and she is single, happily single, and she's bashing these men, it's easy to be like, all right, let me, think and stand up for myself because it gives me power and you feel ignited and stuff like that, which is short term. But they're so easily influenced. But they know
Yeah.
how to package these things really well too, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about it. Lies sound good. Lies
Yeah.
sound really, really good. And even when sometimes people know they're being lied to, they go with it because at the same time, the truth, it does something in here. It starts to register a certain type of way. And the thing about it is when you want to feel that, then it's just like, I want to be, lullaby to sleep. And that's what's going on in society, politics as well. I don't care if they're not doing anything to benefit my community. As long as they it sounds good and feels good, I'm all for it. As long as we can dance, we can cheer. As long as I can spew certain rhetoric, I'm all for it. And that's the problem that we're having. It's a lot of people who just enjoy following. Not even
Yeah.
just being leaders for other people, but leading your own life. Doing your
Mhm.
own research, figuring out what works for you and your family. So I think that's part of the problem. Where it's just people, oh well, and this is another thing too when people get information from somebody or their quote unquote leaders or whatever the case may be, the problem that lies with that is now you have somebody to blame. Oh well, I would have probably did it differently, but I listened to this person, that person. Now you have that crutch. People walk around with crutches sometimes for their entire life because it's like they never have to put the blame on themselves. You can never run away from yourself. You're always going to be running back in a circle and coming to the same spot because you're trying to use somebody else's influence or narrative, whatever like that, to change things. But at the same time, if you're not truly working on yourself and you saying things that sound good in front of other people, but it's not really resonating for you and your life is staying the same, there's something else that has to be done internally. And people
Mhm.
sometimes aren't working internally. That's why they change things, appearance wise or other things like that to, kind of compensate for that. But until you feel comfortable with yourself and truly love yourself, then that's what's going to make the difference for your life.
Do you have like a daily practice like journaling or anything that keeps you sound mind, a prayer practice or anything?
Well, so for me, what I do is I try not to give so much of my time. Like I am on social media a lot, just due to whether it's promoting and different things like that, or sharing things from friends or other peers. But outside of that, I try to make sure that I have balance, right? So,
Mhm.
like what I mentioned about nature, sometimes I take walks. Sometimes I'll journal things or write things down, so that way a week from now, man, I thought about this, or my mindset was at this point in time and I built on it. So maybe say today I write something, whether it's some poetry, a song, whatever. And then a couple of days later, I went through something. Now I can finish writing that. So at that point, it's just like I'm able to put together something of my feelings and see how it progressed over time. And another thing too, I just want to tell anybody who's a writer or feel like they're ever getting stumped when it comes to putting something together or writer's block, any idea or concept you have, don't ever think, oh, I should throw it away because people are not going to like it. You never know how it's going to
Mhm.
register to that one person who could affect thousands or millions. So always write, if you got a phone, most people always have their phone on, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So notes, if you got the right data plan, what I mean? Because some people, they probably notes already filled up, but just write something in your notes or have a pen and pad on you and stuff like that because it's good to get it out anyway. Like certain feelings you have, certain thoughts you have, write it down or go outside and just say it out, you know what I'm saying? Just to, out loud, whatever, because a lot of stuff that we have pent up in us, sometimes it creates a blowback when we're dealing with other people because we haven't figured out how to manage certain feelings and emotions. And so other people that get like the worst version of ourselves when they shouldn't. So,
Okay, nice. So, how can people reach you on social media? How do you only use Instagram or do you have TikTok as well?
oh yeah, I'm on everything. So on Twitter, it's the
Okay.
Mind of Ivory. Yeah, it's the Mind of Ivory on Twitter or X. Threads, I'm on there. It's the Mind of Ivory. It should be Mind of Ivory Global. Facebook is Elijah Ivory. Instagram is Mind of Ivory Global, and TikTok is Mind of Ivory underscore global. And I'm on Snapchat as well. You just type in Mind of Ivory and I
You're
should
on
pull up. So
everything.
yeah, yeah. Well, matter of fact, just real quick, that's another thing I want to tell people as well. Utilize all the platforms. YouTube as well. Elijah R, you can find me on there, but utilize all the streaming platforms and just because, and this is a prime example why I'm telling people this. You put out a post about, hey, I have this podcast. I'm looking for people to have on there, entrepreneurs, just people with a certain mindset or
Right.
just bringing in ideas. You put that out there. You wasn't sure at first how it was going to take off because that's something you mentioned in one of your previous posts. And now you're finishing off season one, and
Yeah.
that's a and great accomplishment. So
Yeah.
you never know who might see your post. So just put it out there. If you're looking to be booked or whatever case may be, if you believe in yourself, stand firm and what you believe in and just do it. Don't second think or don't get somebody else's opinion who say, I wouldn't do that. Or if it
Yeah.
was me, but you're not them. You're you.
Yeah.
So utilize what you have, utilize your gift and stop trying to dim your light to make other people around you feel comfortable who may not be on the same page. So,
Okay, so before we go, what
mhm.
tip do you have for individuals dealing with imposter syndrome?
So imposter syndrome. And so give me your definition of that. I want to know
Okay,
yours.
so um prior to me starting, well, actually I stalled, right? Starting the podcast. And
Mhm.
obviously I was comparing myself to people with bigger platforms, right? Because that's all I listen to are the bigger platforms. I was comparing myself to bigger platforms and even platforms locally. And I was like, okay, I'm boring. No one's gonna want to listen to this podcast, right? And so it was obviously inner talk dialogue. Then when I started it, I was like, I have to be delusional a little bit, right? Because I want to think. But then sometimes it would just be like, okay, who do I think I am to start this? Who do I think I am to really think? Like, I'm not ready. So I'm like, I don't feel like I'm qualified. But then I did it anyways.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get exactly what you're saying. For me, that's something I dealt with personally. Over the past couple of years, I would look to the, like you said, bigger platforms or people doing stuff that I'm currently doing at the highest level, looking at the
Mm,
greats, looking how they put things together. But one thing about it is you need something that resonates with you and something that you can identify with because when you're doing something and it's off of somebody else's merit, it's gonna have a different energy behind it. But if you have something that is kind of like your child, where you raise you know what I'm saying you raise you raise your
mm,
child, you give them the right information, and now you see them what I'm saying like living their best life, and that's the thing about it. You should take it as precious as like. I wouldn't say like a child because what I mean that's a life, but it's something. It's your baby, it's your creation, and
mm,
it's something where when you put all the right elements into it, it's going to succeed. When you take the time out to say, you know what, okay, for my next episode or for next season, this is kind of the layer of the concepts. You coming up with ideas and stuff like that, and it's just understanding that everybody doesn't gravitate to the same thing. Sometimes people want something different. Not everybody likes to laugh. Some people like more serious messages, or they like some people like horror movies. Some people like they like rom-coms. So the thing about it is there's different flavors and varieties in the world, and you're a different option for somebody. Whereas like what. I want a podcast that's a little bit more, upbeat, or it's a little bit more inspirational. They can come to you, but you also, you have humor to you, and you're a person that seems comfortable within their own skin. And
mm.
people, even regardless of what you're saying, when people check out what you have going on, they're like, "Wow, I like the way she interacts with her guests." And that's
Hmm.
going to go because then they'll start sharing what you have because you made them feel comfortable about themselves. Like, wow, she's just starting off and look how she's succeeding, after a short period of time. And you have to put the time into it. For the people that's out there listening, you have to put the time into the things that you want to do. You can't say, well, I want to do this 2 weeks later. How come ain't nothing popped off? Because it's a journey.
Yeah.
We take the baby steps and where we crawl, as babies do until we're able to walk into our purpose. And that's just kind of one of those things we got to understand. Stop trying to compare or be like everybody else. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We all are different people. We're human beings, but we're different individuals internally. You know what I mean? You got people who can sing, you got people with different talents, gifts, and abilities. So don't shortchange yourself because you feel like you got to do it a certain way. You know what I mean? Just utilize the gifts and abilities you have to the highest level.
Yeah. What creative projects do you have coming up?
Okay, so for those that are following me on my social media platforms, I have another project I'm working on called Set the Tone. It's a new school versus old school project where it's just going to have different elements of what you hear today, but also I'm going to bring it back to a certain feeling from like the 80s, the 90s, and just kind of showing that blend of where the inspiration that's come from and then kind of where we're at right now. Have that going on. And I'm currently performing throughout the DMV, but anybody that's looking to book me for an event, just feel free to reach out. All my music is clean, but all my music, I feel like it's something that you can enjoy, and it's something that's uplifting as well. So, definitely feel free, anybody out there that want to reach out about that. And outside of that, still being an advocate for community building and once I finish this project, I'm looking to possibly get back into like writing more books and stuff like that. So I have already started working on two other books. I would say one is a children's book. I just throw that out there and
Okay.
everything. So yeah, I want to definitely get back into that because I enjoy just the way books of affect people as far as something that's just tangible you can read or just have on your phone and just it's different from a song. It's a different, I feel like, a feeling that is evoked when you're reading something from a book. So
Yeah, well, I'm a reader, so
yeah.
I love reading. Is your music available on Spotify?
Yes, it is. So everything you can find under the mind of Ivory, so all my music is there, and
Okay.
you can feel free to, like I said, just go in and explore.
Okay, great. Um, I ask all my guests, is there one book or a few, if you have in mind, that has inspired you the most?
So books, I would say one main book that has inspired me or influenced my family, which also helped me out, growing up and still till today, is the Bible. I would say the Bible is that number one book for me for the simple fact because it's just as you're going through life and you're seeing certain things happen and certain things that are playing out, it's like, wow, like this was already prophesized, or certain spirits and energies that people may have of today, you've seen that or read about that in the Bible, and then how that changed the world and things of that nature. So I feel like the Bible for me has been a book that's been a staple of my life, which I don't read it enough and I haven't really read it in a long time. So I like so I want to be transparent. I want the listener to be like, oh wow, he must be reading that right now. No, I haven't been reading it, you know what I mean? But I understand the impact that it has. I understand the impact it has on my family. Two of my biggest inspirations are my parents who are devoted to God, you know what I'm saying, and believing in his word and stuff like that. And so for me, I never shy away from that, and I never let anything or corporations, whatever the case may be, change my mindset about that because I understand when I felt at my worst or when I was in my worst situations, the only name that I thought about calling on, you know what I'm saying, was God and Jesus
Mhm.
Christ. So that's just kind of where I'm at. So I feel like the Bible is that number one book for me or the most impactful. Um, yeah.
Right. I love that answer. Thank you for that.
You're
Um,
welcome.
yeah, no, because actually before I asked you, I don't know, I'm like, when is somebody going to tell me that their favorite book is one of the holy books, Um, thing. But no, that's really good. And hopefully now that you have reminded yourself that that is one of your favorite books, you'll read more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I put
Right?
that there, so I said I can't be my own way. Didn't I say that earlier, y'all? I say
Yeah.
that earlier. Be my
Yeah.
own way.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, but I understand the process sometimes it could be a bit challenging, to get the reading and stuff done. But thank you so much again for coming on. It was a pleasure having you. Let me know when your other book comes out, and we could probably have you back on again. Um, but thanks again so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and continue your journey with your podcast.
Yeah. Hold on a second, right?
Okay.